standing in the mirror one day and I'm like, that's what it means. And I literally, tears just pour out of my eyes when I hear it, because I had to ask myself to change my ways, and nothing could change until I did. Nothing. And you can change. You can. It's hard work, and people might call me crazy or whatever, but you know what? I know who I am. Finally, my mask is off. Finally, and I'm no longer ashamed of anything. I don't even resent any of the experiences I've ever been through, and if I had to go through them again, I would choose to.
Today's guest is Tywanah Everett, alchemist, intuitive healer, psychic medium, empath, and spiritual guide. Tywanah, a seasonal intuitive healer and psychic with over 35 years of business experience, is now transitioning into a deeper spiritual realm. She has been a guiding light for individuals, entrepreneurs, and even White House appointees, blending intuition and empathy to navigate professional and personal challenges. Welcome, Tywanah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I am too.
What's one of the most courageous things that you have done?
The most courageous thing I've ever done is heal my childhood trauma and my adult trauma. So heal my trauma, and that alone. That was the most courageous thing I've ever done.
We can dive straight into that, or we can talk about that later. But let's just go back, and I would like to ask you, your journey started off from when you were born.
Absolutely.
That in itself is a major story.
Yes, it is. So my mother spiked a 108 fever at 7 months pregnant, and she didn't know she had pneumonia. Back in 1975, that was a big deal. So I was born 3 pounds 4 ounces. Neither of us were supposed to survive. The doctor even told my family that neither of us were supposed to survive, but both of us made it through. I spent a lot of time in the hospital before I was able to come home with underdeveloped lungs and, other medical issues that had arisen as a result of being born 3 pounds in 1975. I had a tumultuous childhood. I had a stepfather. My mother left my real father when I was like 3 years old, and so I didn't remember. And I had a stepfather, and I thought I was his. So when I was his, I was a daddy's girl. He would never tell me no. And my real father came looking for me when I was 9. And my mother sent me to live with him when I was 10. And that's where my nightmare began. He was in nursing school in Seattle. And, he was working for immigration in New York City. And, she felt like it was safe, a good time to get to know your daughter. My father's abuse began a few days after I arrived.
Wow.
It was physical abuse, it was mental abuse, it was psychological abuse. And when I was 15 years old, I terminated his child.
Wow.
So there was a lot of that between the ages of 10 and 15. Even after my mother came back from Washington in nursing school, he bribed her and told her if she didn't marry him, he was going to take me from her, because she was, a nurse just getting started, coming back. And he was, this big man working for immigration and naturalization and all of this stuff. And so she felt like she had to marry him. She did not know what was going on. I couldn't bring myself to tell her, because I tried telling my 5th grade teacher and my counselor, and they laughed at me.
Gosh.
They told me I had bruises between my legs. I had bruises all over me from fighting, and from the first time it happened. They're like, you're an active kid. You probably fell off your bike, blah, blah, blah. Ha, ha, ha. What am I supposed to do? Punch him in the face? And I'm thinking, yes, punch him in the face, I'm 10 years old. And so when I was 15, I couldn't take it anymore. The abuse was getting worse, and I took a pregnancy test and it came back positive. As a 15-year-old, I did not have the bravery or the mentality to be able to carry that child because I didn't see it as a child. I saw it as an it. It was my brother, it was my sister, it was my son, it was my daughter. So it was an it. It wasn't a child. And so I did terminate that pregnancy. My mother had a terminal diagnosis at that point, and there was no way she could take care of me. So I moved into the New York City group home system. That was a lot of fun. Navigating the New York City group home system is like navigating prison.
Wow.
You're allowed one black trash bag full of your belongings, and you go from place to place where you're getting beaten up, you're getting things stolen, you're getting things taken away. A lot of people in the New York City group homes are SA'd with not only body parts but objects. So I made it out of that. I had my daughter at 18 years old, and my first child, and she's wonderful. She has my 2 grandchildren. Very proud of her. But I wasn't prepared to be anybody's mother. No one told me how to heal what I had been through. I was just expected to shuffle it in the back of my mind and, keep moving, keep moving. So then I married the wrong person. I, kept meeting the same person in different bodies and different aspects because I'm supposed to learn from my father who to look for. And I did, but it wasn't the right people. And I kept going through these cycles of terrible relationships and things like that. And I had a catastrophic car wreck in 2004 that, and I had just built a 6-bedroom house.
Wow.
On the golf course. And it took my ability to earn income for my family away. I literally just had my 37th back surgery.
Gosh.
So 20 years later, I am still suffering the consequences of someone else's poor decisions. And my health is still affected. And she gets to live her best life. But in 2020, I thought I did better. I thought I chose better. I met a 4th grade teacher, and I'm thinking, ooh, a 4th grade teacher, like this is going to be great. I'm choosing better. I'm healing, I'm making better choices. This is going to be awesome. He works with babies all day. He was, minus the essay part of it, my father reincarnated.
Oh gosh.
He made it his mission to tear me down every single day. And my therapist said he checked every box for covert narcissism.
Wow.
It took her a year and a half to convince me of it. And it took her that long to convince me that I was abused, because I'm thinking he never hit me. And she goes, but he wanted to. Covert narcissists hate you for whatever reason it is, because they hate themselves. I then attempted to take my life 2 years later. I couldn't take it anymore. I had never felt, even my father, even what he did not make me feel as worthless, as useless, as purposeless, and as hopeless as what my ex did with his words, with his actions. I remember on my knees begging him to love me. Just see me for who I am and love me. And he stepped over me like I was dog poo on a New York City street. So I tried to take my life. Of course, that means you have to stay in the hospital for a while, therapy and things like that. So I moved back to DC because my sister had just lost her partner of umpteen years. They might as well have been married suddenly. And she said, I think we need each other. And so I moved back. I realized I was a healer while I was at her house because she was healing, but I wasn't allowed to. I was still hurting so deeply inside. I was losing friends left and right. People didn't want to be a part of my life anymore. My children decided they didn't want to be a part of my life anymore. Yet I was expected to be this happy person at her house.
Yes.
and keep going, right? Just keep going.
Mhm.
And when I moved into my apartment, my mother's voice got so loud. Her presence became so bold, so fiery, and I knew she was here. There
Mm.
was no question that she was here. And she had me awake sitting outside every night. So basically for 2 years, I sat outside every night, even if it was cold. I even bought a heated blanket for it, scripting, just writing, writing
Wow.
and learning. Slowly, she started to introduce the other ancestors that have been around me to me. She introduced their energy first because I need to recognize their energy, when I'm not at
Yeah.
home. And then she would pull the scales off my eyes so I could see them. I started listening to them. I started talking to them. I started asking them for help to heal because at this point I had no one. There was no one. It was just me. And I had to do it. I didn't have a choice. I had to heal. I missed my kids. I missed my grandkids.
Yeah.
So the only way that I even had a small chance of getting back in their life was the hard route, and that was that healing route.
Mm.
And so my ancestors in February, my mother says it's time to use your voice to heal others.
Wow.
And I started speaking on podcasts. I created my company. I started doing TikToks. I started doing everything that I could to use my voice to help others to heal. And that's what I've been doing since. My company is growing. My business, it's growing. People are really coming out of the woodwork to find me. One lady, I mean, she tracked me down. She did almost like I felt like I was getting a security clearance again with all the background. She looked for me. By the time she called me, she knew everything about me. And I'm like, lady, did you do a clearance? To help her daughter,
Oh,
who's in a very similar situation than I was when I was
wow.
15.
Yeah.
And so those are the types of people I help
Yeah.
now. I help
Yeah.
people heal. I help
Oh.
people heal their generational trauma, their childhood trauma,
Mm.
their if they've been through domestic abuse or anything of the sort. That I even realized I'm helping people heal their relationships with their children by being
Mm.
honest and open about my failures with mine. And in
Absolutely.
that, my children and I have reconciled.
Beautiful. Everything you're saying is absolutely beautiful. Honestly, like, wow. Really, wow.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
you naturally fell into being a psychic medium. So tell me more about that, because I know you heard your mother's voice of guidance, and as we all know, we have to heal. I'll ask you about that in a moment. But so yeah. So how was that when you started first hearing all these noises and like
It wasn't scary because I've heard them my whole life. I just ignored them.
okay.
My mother said that she told me the story when she was still alive
Uh-huh.
about how she knew I was a psychic when I was 2 years old
Oh wow.
because she was in the kitchen making fried chicken, and back in the 70s, a lot of kitchens had doors in the
Uh-huh.
US. And so she heard me. I was 2.5. I was squealing, and laughing and giggling. And she peeked out the door, to see what I was doing. And I'm toddling around the living room and I'm going, Pop Pop, you can't catch me. Only Pop Pop's not there. And then the phone rings and it's my Nana telling her my Pop Pop had passed. And so she knew when I was 2 I had the gift because she
Mm.
was a psychic. And so she nurtured it for a time. She nurtured it until my father came into my life, but he was a deacon in the
Mm.
church. And so then I was told that I had to hide it because it wouldn't be accepted.
Yeah.
So most of my life I went through knowing that I had this gift but suppressing it and second guessing myself because that's what society wanted me to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really interested in hearing all about the fact that you refer yourself as the black butterfly goddess. Explain more about that. That just sounds absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, I am a butterfly fanatic. I always have been, even as a
Yeah.
child. I was a butterfly fanatic. I used to catch them and then let them go. You know, put them in a jar and look at them and play with them and
Yeah.
study them and then let them go.
Oh,
I wasn't one of those kids who kept them in the jar. Butterflies have always meant a lot to me.
mm,
I always found them beautiful, but they start out as caterpillars, so they don't know they're beautiful.
yes.
And so I felt connected and they reminded me of me. And so I knew that in my business name, butterfly had to be there somewhere. It didn't
Yeah.
matter where it was, it had to go somewhere. I do not like the word queen. I feel like it's overused and it has multiple meanings. And one of the etymology meanings of the word queen is prostitute. That's one of them. There are many.
Yes.
Between women in the US overusing that word,
Hmm.
calling everybody queen, everyone's not a queen. Everyone doesn't behave like a queen. Yes, I understand we want to be positive and uplifting, but we also need to understand that everyone is not. And so I said, you know what? No, I am a co creator with God. I am a goddess.
Yeah.
And so we had butterfly and goddess, and I chose the black butterfly because here it's one of the most rare butterflies you'll ever see. Now in Costa Rica, you see them all the time, but here they're rare. And I thought I chose it because it was rare. And I found out a few weeks ago, black butterflies mean ancestral connection.
Wow.
So I didn't choose it, they did.
They chose
I
it for
just
you.
heard it and didn't realize it. So that's where Black Butterfly Goddess came from. I am a goddess. I am a bridge between the material and the spiritual realm, and I am very connected to my ancestors.
You definitely are, and you definitely are a goddess.
Thank you.
So tell me all about trusting one's intuition and what you do and what it all involves. I am absolutely excited to hear all about it.
Trusting my intuition came with healing my sacral chakra
Hmm.
because that's where you feel it. It's in that area, in that womb area is where you feel your intuition. Between there and your solar plexus, it's where you know something's wrong, something's right, something's off. They always call it a gut feeling, right?
That's right.
So it's between your sacral and your solar plexus. And as I started to heal my sacral chakra, those unctions became stronger. So I rely on my intuition for everything. If it
Hmm.
doesn't feel right, I'm not doing it. If it doesn't feel right to go out during the day, if I feel like something's off, I'm not
Yeah.
leaving. I follow my intuition in all things now, be it my business, be it my TikToks, whatever my intuition says to do is what I follow because that's my ancestral guidance. That's them inside of me, inside of them, guiding me as to what is safe and what is not.
Wow. Definitely. So tell me more about, I mean, I know in your case, there's a lot of shame as well. And I know people have shame they hold on to for years and years. So how can one help themselves to let go of shame?
First, you have to realize it's not our shame to carry. What did we
Yeah.
do wrong?
Yeah.
I did nothing wrong. I was a child.
Exactly.
Then you have to have a lot of self-compassion and allow yourself to feel those emotions that come with shame. And it's not an easy thing to heal. It
Mm,
really isn't. But if you can find it in yourself, just as you would a best friend, if they called and said, "Hey, this happened to me," the first thing out of your mouth is going to be, "Baby, that wasn't your fault. That wasn't your fault." Think about what you would tell your best friend. You didn't do anything wrong. They did that to you. So that is their guilt and shame. They should feel guilty and shameful.
mhm.
Once I realized that, it was easier to move on, but I also had to thank what I refer to as little Tawana, my inner child, for protecting me. Because something like that, a lot of people wouldn't have survived it, just in the body,
Mhm.
period. So I had to thank little Tawana and tell her I'm proud of her because she was brave and she was courageous and she really protected me, who I am today,
Yes.
and thank her. And now when little Tawana wants to come out, I put on a onesie. I will show up in TikTok on a Disney onesie with bunny ears. I don't care. I don't care anymore. I'll color. I'll sit on the floor with coloring books and crayons. I nurture my inner child, and that's part of getting rid of that shame, is nurturing that. I even wrote a letter to her and told her, you were so brave, but I've got it from
Mm.
here. I've got it from here.
Oh, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm really excited to ask you, tell me all about guides and the spirit team. What does that all involve? And what, I mean, there's so many layers to your work and who you
Yes.
are. I don't really know where to start, but let's start there.
Okay, well, my mother's always on my right side.
Okay.
And it's funny because when I'm on TikTok, they notice this eye will change colors. The gold here will begin to sparkle. My pop-up is always on this side. He controls this light. Don't know if you noticed, but this light
Yeah.
just got brighter. That's
Yes.
my pop-up. I've got 11 other ancestors in this house at all times. So there were 13 of them in here
Wow.
at all times. It's quite funny, quite comical. I remember I had a temper tantrum the other day, and I'm like, I really want to move. I want to move out of here. I don't like where I live, and blah 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 blah. And they all just sat there and looked. Like grandmothers and grandfathers looked at you back in the day when you were having a temper tantrum, and they would just sit there and look at you. And then when you're done, my mother says, would you like to tell us where you'd like to move or what you want while you're having this tantrum? Because you never told us that. And I
Wow.
felt so stupid.
Oh,
I said, I'm going to bed. I went to bed without even eating dinner. I was like, I'm going to bed because I felt so stupid. But they are here at all times, and I can tell by their stance where they are, because they all sit in the same spaces all the time,
mhm.
and I can tell by who moves where what's going on. So if the women get up from the table and surround me, there's danger. If the men stand in front of my desk, there's severe danger.
God.
Meaning even on the other side of a camera or a TikTok video, it means someone doesn't mean me well and they're in protect mode. Like I said, this light here, my pop-up controls it, so it'll go up, it'll go down, it'll go up, it'll go down. It depends on what he's feeling, what he's agreeing with, and who's on the other side of that camera.
Wow.
They do talk to me. I
Yeah.
talk to them.
Uh-huh.
I learned a lot of my history through talking to them. My mother, when she was introducing all of them, the ones that I didn't know, to me, she gets to Jerusha. I said,
Okay.
Jerusha, what the heck is that? I have never in my life heard that name.
Yeah.
And my mother's comical. She's a Leo. And she
Okay.
goes, you have the Google, look it up. The Google. Okay. I'm going to open the Google and look it up. And so I spent a whole weekend on Ancestry and Family Search, and there's only one photo in my entire mother's lineage, and it's a headstone, Jerusha Ann Reevy,
Wow.
1805. Fourth great grandmother back. And she's this little red-haired Irish woman who sits at the dining room table at this pretty table setting and wants her tea. As soon as I come out of my bedroom, where's my tea? Yeah, it's quite funny in my house. And people might call me crazy or whatever, but you know what? I know who I am. Finally, my
Mm.
mask is off. Finally, and I'm no longer ashamed of anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely love
Anything.
that.
My I don't even resent any of the experiences I've ever been through, and if I had to go through them again, I would choose to.
Yeah.
Because to receive an email from a random person that says, "I had the pills in my hand and I saw you on a podcast and I've decided to
Mm,
live." You can't put a price on that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
My TikTok community, I know you saw me looking down and like moving my arm. I have a new little puppy, and it's because I have epilepsy. And for 4 months, I was looking for a dog and was having trouble. And then I had to have 3 back surgeries in a row. So, I had to pay my deductibles for those and things like that. And I had a couple of seizures for a few days. My TikTok community was concerned because I was gone for
Mm,
a couple of days and nobody
yeah.
knew. One day, they were like, "You have to have a dog. You have to have a dog." And then I looked up and they were all cash apping me the money to buy this dog.
So,
So,
mm,
and they say a lot of them, some of them were like, "You saved my life."
yeah.
Some of them were like, "You give so much to us every night of yourself and don't even know it." One young lady wrote me a beautiful email and, she said, "You were the first parent that I've ever seen take accountability for what you put your children through. That was worth it." I know I'm in my purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so people can call me crazy. They can call me what they want. I no longer care what other people feel or think about me. Those are your thoughts. Those are your problems.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
I'm finally in a space where I know what contentment feels like.
Mm,
I
yes.
know what it feels like to love myself.
Mm,
I know what it feels like not to hate every part of me, not to think I'm damaged goods. I know that what I'm doing is good.
absolutely. And it definitely is. Yeah.
So,
So, how can guides help us? How can guides help us with our everyday life?
if you are really in tune with your guides, number one, they can keep you safe. I
Mm-hmm.
have gotten dressed to leave this house before and they say nope, not safe. And then you'll
Mm,
see, on social media or the news something happened right down the street,
mm,
at a time you were supposed to leave. Mine helped me find my purpose, which was the
mm.
biggest thing because when I took those pills, I said I had no purpose. Mine helped me find my personal
Yeah.
purpose aside from my
Mm,
children, aside from my grandchildren. I have my own purpose. I was born to do something. And that's what they did for me. They helped me to
absolutely.
find me.
Yeah, because it's so important to heal and reconnect with our authentic self. And,
Yes.
if people can just understand that, because all wounds will keep on reoccurring until you
Yes.
address them.
Yes. Over and over, 30 years of it. Over
Mm,
and over and over again until and I had to say stop. Finally I had to say enough, okay?
yes.
I tell people I was sick of my own crap.
Yeah.
It gets bad when you're sick of your own crap. When
Yeah.
you're sick of yourself. I was sick of myself being a victim. I just didn't know how to get out of it. I was sick of myself acting like a victim. I just didn't know how to stop. I was sick of myself gossiping about people because I felt like I should have had the life they had, but I didn't know how to navigate it. And so this time I
Mm,
said, I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to heal. And I'm
yes.
going to do it for me because I had to find a foundation. How did I find self-love? Foundation. I had to sit there and look deep inside myself, and I found 2 things in me that I could think of were good. I'm a good person and I'm kind.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I took that as and built on that foundation. I couldn't find anything else good about myself at that time. So I had to say, okay, if somebody asks for the shirt off your back, you've given it. You don't go out to hurt people. So you're a good person and you're kind. And that was my foundation. And then I just built on that foundation. And now it's I love me. And if number 1, you can't follow a boundary, number 2, you can't respect me, you can't be a part of my world.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you interrupt my peace in any way, shape, form, or fashion, you cannot be a part of my world. You have to go. And I wish you love and healing.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So, as a medium, how can you help connect with the spirit realm and deliver messages of guidance and comfort? Tell me more about that. I'm really excited all about that.
That is funny. I had no idea I could channel until an ex-friend's grandmother jumped in my body. And I just remember feeling kind of like woozy. And then I was like, what just happened? And she was standing there like this. Of course, I've learned to control it since I feel the energies. I know, that there's a presence. I'm able to see now. I couldn't see back then.
Okay.
So I'm able to see the spirits now. I can describe them, what they look like, what they're wearing, and I have a choice. I prepare my body and make the decision as to whether or not the message is enough or whether or not they need to give the message. And my guides help me to determine whether that entity is safe or not. If
Mm,
it's not safe, they're not going to let them in here. If it is safe, they'll allow them in. If they are truly safe and kind and good, then they will allow me to channel them. My voice will change, my eyes will change, my accent will change. And then I'm like, what just happened? Because you don't remember it. When you channel, you don't remember any of it. You just
wow.
remember what was happening, how you felt before. You feel woozy and weird. And then when they release your body, you're like, what just happened?
Wow.
So it's an interesting practice. I've gotten to the point now. I used to do it. I used to allow it during the week, freely during TikToks. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm a lot more guarded with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I only allow those readings to happen on the weekend because they take a lot out of you.
I can
Channeling
imagine.
and mediumship, it literally zaps your energies. I don't need to have to meet a client after I do any channeling or have to record a podcast or
Mm-hmm.
be on anybody's panel. I need to be able to go rest if that's what my body
Mm-hmm.
requires. So it's mediumship is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I look forward to it, sometimes I don't. It just depends on what it is. Like, I've got
Yeah.
a lady who's at the end of her life, she's in hospice, and she's paid me to do mediumship next weekend. I'm not looking forward to that one. I
Mm-hmm.
know it's going to zap me, so I took a few days off after. So it just depends on the circumstances, but they pretty much just hop in and say what they have to say. And I have gone back on TikTok lives when it's happened and seen myself speaking in accents that I couldn't try to repeat the accent if I there's no way,
Oh,
that I can
yeah.
speak like that. There's no way. My body language changes, my eyes change, my eye colors, my eyes will turn blue.
Wow.
When someone's coming through, my eyes turn blue. They can see it on TikTok. I've got it
Mm-hmm.
all on video. So it's very harsh on the body, but it brings people peace because finally they know things like it wasn't your fault or I wasn't in pain. I had one
Mm-hmm.
lady, I was on TikTok live, her and we were doing a 6 a.m. mediumship reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on TikTok live, and I'm like, oh God, does somebody here have a migraine? And I'm like holding my head, and it's hurting really bad. But I had also seen a gentleman walking around the house, a young man, not a grown man. He
Mm-hmm.
was very calm, no threat, no nothing. He just kept pacing. So I just allowed him to pace. I asked everybody, has somebody lost and I described him. Nobody came forward. And then I'm like, ah. And so we get to her when I get on her reading. I said, did you lose somebody in your family? And I'm describing them 6'4", da da da, skin, da da da, clothes. And she just starts bawling. It's her son. And he was in the head. That's the pain I was feeling right before her reading. Because, of course, I'm tapping into people's energy hours before,
Yeah.
so I'm going to
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
these sensations before their readings. He had come because she was stuck. She couldn't move forward. She was going through the motions of life,
Mm-hmm.
but she was stuck. And he came forward to tell her he didn't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't feel the pain, and that she had to keep going. And he was with her, and that she had to keep going. and she is on fire now. Like when I tell you this woman has taken off like a Concorde jet, you remember
Yeah,
Concordes?
yeah.
She has
Wow.
taken off like a Concorde jet after that reading. It is so beautiful to see.
Just love it. I love what you do.
So it brings people
Mm,
hope. It
mm,
heals. She healed that wound, that mother wound, that guilt, that she should have done something
mm,
that she had open for years. That wound is
mm,
now closed. And
mm,
I even started speaking like him. Again, I have
mhm,
it on recording. I
mhm,
even started speaking like him,
mhm.
using the same verbiage he would use with her.
Wow.
Yeah, mediumship, channeling, it's an interesting thing, but I have learned to keep that on the weekends, to keep it to 2 appointments in a day, and to make
Mhm,
sure I get plenty of rest. I prepare my body. I don't eat food with preservative. I eat a lot
mhm,
of vegetables, drink a lot of vegetable juices, and things like that. So my body becomes a clear channel versus, where they can get stuck.
clogged.
Food
Yeah.
and things like that affect
Yes.
um, your ability to connect to spirit. People don't realize that.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
prepare my body for it.
I bet. So how can one step into their power, owning their own truth? I mean, you're a fine example.
You've got to face yourself. My ancestors speak through music, and my mother just whispered in my ear, "Man in the Mirror." And if everybody listens to that song by Michael Jackson, yes, we all know it. Yes, we all sing the words, but do you really know why he wrote it? Do you really know the meaning of
Mm,
that song? And I would suggest everyone listen, not just to the words. Because, like I said,
mm,
look, I've been singing Man in the Mirror since it came out, and only understood a year ago what he was talking about because it was me.
mm,
I was standing in the mirror one day and I'm like, that's what it means. And I literally, tears just pour out of my eyes when I hear it because I had to ask myself to change my ways, and nothing could change until I did.
mm,
Nothing. And you can change. You can. It's hard work, but if you find the right person, there are people like me out here who will hold your hand through that process as long as you're willing to do the work. We're not going
mm.
to do it for you.
Absolutely.
And the minute you stop being willing to do the work, we're going to let go of your hand because you're not going to drag us back.
Mm,
But if you're ready to do that work, then start. Look for somebody to help you.
absolutely.
Plenty of us will hold your hand and guide you and show you how to do it and be there for you and show up for you. But you just have to be willing to do the work, and the work is hard,
Yeah. Oh, that's
but
absolutely
it's worth it.
beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Definitely worth it. Yes. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is a big question, knowing a bit about your life.
Mm-hmm.
What is one of the most important lessons you've learned in your life so far? If you could possibly put it down to one.
It does not matter what other people say, think, or feel about you or what you're doing. You're the only one who needs to believe in you.
Wow.
That is the most important thing I've ever learned, is that the only person who needs to believe in me, what I do, who I help, is me.
Wow. Just beautiful. God, I just love it all.
Thank
I,
you.
I could spend
Thank
hours
you.
with you. I could spend days with you.
Love it.
Mm,
I love
yeah.
it.
So you have given us so many tools, daily steps, tips to anyone that wants to start trusting their intuition, start getting clear on their life, I guess.
Yes.
So what is your key takeaway?
Find a way to heal.
Mm,
A lot of us Gen Xers don't realize that we were so traumatized. We pass that on to our children. We owe it to them. Even if I'm turning 50 in February. Even if we're 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, we owe it to them to heal, to show them that we can be different, to show them that it's possible, because so many of them we traumatized. So find a way to do it. There's too much information out here now not to. We're we're
mm-hmm.
not we're not just dealing with the Encyclopedia Britannica anymore, and the Webster's Dictionary. So There is no excuse not to heal anymore. You're making excuses if you don't.
Love it. Love it. So where can the listeners find you online? What's your website, Tywanah?
Blackbutterflygoddess.com and Black Butterfly Goddess on all social media platforms.
Wow, love that as well. So thank you for sharing your courageous journey and your deep, insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today, and for doing the work on yourself so that you can help the others. I really want to acknowledge you for that, Tywanah Everett.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Anita. It has been so wonderful. So wonderful. Great experience.
An absolute pleasure. So we are all about Create the Courage to be Fearless podcast. What is your definition of courage?
Me.
Wow.
I'm the definition of courage. Every time I got knocked down, it didn't matter how low. It didn't matter when I lost everything. I still found a way to get back up.